Baseball is back. The first week of action in Major League Baseball. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. But before we talk about that, there's a lot of really cool things that happened. We obviously have to talk about the elephant in the room that it happened in Oakland, California. Our guy, Chris Madrigal, took a foul ball off the chest on opening night, baby. Look at that.
Right here. Is it right here? Was that your Stu Gatz impression?
Chris, it is.
Yeah.
So
Major League Baseball official, for those watching on YouTube, you could see it. You can see that douchebag Rob Manfred's signature, and you could see the smudge where Mitch Moreland hit it as well. Yeah, I did.
Happy Gilmore style off the chest.
Definitely didn't catch it. Just took it.
You're famous, man. You're on ESPN.
Yeah.
So how was it?
I thought I was only on NBC, and then Jesse, my buddy Jesse, hit me up. He was watching on ESPN. He's like, "Dude, you're on national TV, just taking a ball off the chest." And I was like, "Oh shit!" And I just put like shaking my head. But so, do you want to hear the play-by-play why it went off of my chest as opposed to in my hands?
Yes.
So one, it's incredibly hard to catch a fly ball with your bare hands. So that's the first off, especially with exit velocities that are up to like 100 miles per hour these days. But so like when a typical fly ball, goes in the air and goes in the area of your like section, you don't really know where it's going. Like halfway through the flight, you're kind of like, okay, it's coming near my section, but it could go to the section on the right, could go to the section on the left. You never really know. So this one it was going pretty straight. It looked like it was going to the section on my right. I was sitting in like 205, 206, I think was to my right. It looked like it was going to go that way. It had some distance on it. But then out of nowhere, like 3/4 through its flight, it had like this curve on it, and it just fucking whipped right into my section and like right at me. And I'm just like, oh shit. So like legitimately all this entire process went through my mind. So I saw that it was kind of going like around, at my chest, like around here. So there's two ways that I could have caught it. I could have either done it like a football catch with my hands, but if I drop it, it's going to bounce off my hands because I'm in row 1. It's going to bounce off my hands. It's going to fall down to the first deck to the section below me. So then I'm lost. I don't get the ball at all. So the way I see it was like, maybe I can trap it off my chest, like realizing that it's going to come in like fucking, guns a-blazing. So I do that. It hits my chest. I trap it, and it barely kind of like gets my finger and flips out. So like I didn't have like full control over it, and it just drops right down below me at my feet. I'm just like, oh shit. And I grab it and I just pick it up. And then I waved it in front of the section, and everybody's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, my chest. And I did like the whole like, ah. And then some dude who was sitting like 6 rows behind me just goes, no, man, just fucking, ah. So I turn around, and I think the camera cut away by this point, but I turn around and start going, ah, like King Kong just beating my chest. It was pretty funny. But yeah, that's the story.
Were you sore?
So I thought I would be. I didn't feel the impact, so it didn't hurt because my adrenaline was pumping. The next day I was sore in my chest, but I couldn't tell if that was from because I'd worked out the morning before I went to the game. I couldn't tell if that was working out soreness or if it was off that, because it was like all of my chest was sore. But
and how many? Because dude, I had like 5 different people texting me being like, "Was that Madrigal?" So how many people were texting you?
Everybody was texting me and sliding into my DMs like, "Oh my God, dude, that was you!" Blah blah. Some random some friend of Larry's, my brother Larry, who doesn't know me, has never met me at all, texted him. He's like, "Hey, I'm watching the game on ESPN, and I just saw Madrigal on the back of a jersey. Are you related to that guy?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's my brother." Like it was just like
that's
the most random shit ever.
Yeah, in case you couldn't tell if that was Chris, on the back of his jersey is his last name.
Yeah.
So also you forgot about the dumbest part of it all. Somebody tried to buy the ball off you.
Yeah. So about 3 innings later, some random creepy old guy came up to me and goes, "You the one who caught that fly ball?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I'll give you $60 for it right now." I go, "Dude, it's not for sale." And then he just goes, "Oh, all right." And he walks away. That was really weird. I don't know why. I don't know what
$60
motivation in life would make you want to have that. Maybe he's collecting. I don't know. I don't know if he thinks he can resell.
I collect all of Mitch Moreland's balls that he's hit that's gone into the crowd.
I have every intention on framing it and putting a picture of me raising the ball.
That's awesome.
in a frame. So anyway, but then the A's lost and they haven't won since. So that sucked. And that was a total bummer, but we'll get into that later. So today's episode, we'll start with the big three with some news around the league. A bench clearing brawl in Cincy. We had dueling no hitters on opening. Was that opening night? No, it was opening weekend.
Sweet. It was Saturday night, opening weekend.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
We'll get into the whole the mess with the A's that are 0-6. We'll literally cover it all. We'll talk about all the reasons why we think they're 0-6, and then we'll give out. We'll talk about the upcoming schedule, give out the player of the week, and obviously we'll end with the essential tool of the week like we always do. But first, Julio, big announcement. Major League Baseball ponied up for once, obviously probably after a lot of criticism from the online and probably liberal community about the situation that is going on in Atlanta, how they have put, I think it's like 16 laws in place that restrict people from voting and make it a lot tougher to vote in future elections because they're butthurt that that the Republicans lost. We won't get into that. Anyway, so the game has been moved to Denver. I think it's pretty cool. Robbie Schlatter shared that tweet with us this morning that Rachel Luba tweeted something, I'm paraphrasing.
We shouldn't reward a bad team or team that's intentionally not willing to participate or not willing to put a competitive team, which it's a pretty stupid statement in my opinion. I get where she's going with that, but I don't. I mean, I couldn't disagree more. Anyway, I get where she's going with that, but my first thought is, so why are you going to punish your fans because your owner is a moron? So the Rockies fans are going to have nothing to cheer for this year. It's already been a rough COVID year as it is. The least this is going to be great for them. It's going to enthusiasm them. It's going to really bring the city back in July. It's going to give them something to be excited about this year because they're clearly not going to be very good. I don't see that was a really aggressive statement for really no reason. I know that her and Bauer's whole MO the past 6 months is anti-establishment. Let's shit on them as much as possible. But that was just really weird. I don't know. I don't get it. Honestly, I know Gavin Newsom was oh, California is always open. I'm that wasn't going to happen. The reality was we don't know what California is going to look like in those months. And plus, the Dodgers are going to be hosting it next year. And
half of California is vaccinated right now. That's a good sign.
But besides that, there's a lot more to it. It's cool. Who cares if your team sucks? It really matters that can your city handle it? Does your city show a history of handling it? What's the weather like? And I've never been to Colorado, but I'd imagine Denver during the summer is probably going to be some pretty dope weather. And plus, dingers for days.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun home run derby. I remember, I think it was 98, 97, maybe it was 96, 97, 96. Home run derby with, I think it was Mark McGwire, Larry Walker, all these guys. It was one of the best home run derbies of all time to watch, and they are just fucking knocking them out the park. The row of seats that are exactly a mile high, I think they're orange seats up there. It was a competition of who can hit it the most and stuff like that. So that's gonna be fun. I'm excited for that.
So the biggest thing why this is happening was Chris already talked about. Georgia has doing a lot of major movements in this last month to really hone in on voter suppression. We're not going to get really too in depth with that. If you want to do your own research and kind of read about it, go for it. But this was something that, as much shit as you literally opened up talking shit about him, as much shit we're going to give Rob Manfred, it sounds like he was actually listening to the players. He actually released a statement saying over the last week, we've engaged in thoughtful conversation with clubs, former and current players, the Players Association, and the Players Alliance, among others, to listen to their views. I've decided it's best to relocate. Now, as far as we know, that's a blanket statement. As far as we know, there's been a huge amount of advertisers pulling out. we know about like
Coca-Cola.
a lot of Hollywood productions are moving out of Atlanta for the time being. I know like Coca-Cola, who's that is Atlanta.
Yeah, like a bunch of conservatives on social media are like boycotting Coca-Cola, and they're
We're
like,
canceling Coke.
"Yeah, okay,
Cool
bro.
half.
Well, we'll see."
Well, Pepsi also put out a statement supporting Black Lives Matter, so enjoy
Yeah.
drinking Shasta Cola. But the biggest thing, and I think it's really he wouldn't be here without him, is Tony Clark. Y'all might remember him. He's a former first baseman, the Padres for a good chunk of time. He is also the head of the executive director of the Players Union, and he also happens to be a black man. So I think he probably had a really big push in this. So like awesome. I'm so like it's glad that they're kind of listening to the players. We'll see what this is going to lead to in the future. But at the end of the day, congrats, Denver. I think that's going to be really awesome. I've heard nothing but awesome things about Denver. I don't know if you've been there before.
I have. I'm trying to go to this. I know I texted you earlier about it, but I'm trying to go to this shit. So you might see me there.
Catching another foul ball.
Can I just say one more thing and then I'll move on? So like the right after that all happened and like the whole like social media movement to try and get the All-Star game moved, the Braves like released a statement that was kind of like, oh, it's an open conversation that we're having. We want to be like part of like the change, blah blah, for Georgia and all this shit. And it's like, okay, I heard the baseball barbecue podcast today, and those guys were talking about it, and like their reaction was like word for word exactly how I felt when I read that statement. Just like, huh, okay, bro, whatever. You have some power in that state. You could have done something, and you're the team that represented Hank Aaron in the year that he passed away, with all that he had to deal with in your living in your state and in the organization with the the racist hatred. You're just gonna like be like, whatever. Like if you really cared, you would have backed out of having the All-Star game. You would have said like, hey, no, we're not gonna have it because we don't support the way the state blah 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 blah. It's just, I don't know. It's just bullshit.
You know what?
Hank Aaron
I don't know their names, but owners of the Atlanta Braves, if you would like to host the All-Star game, you can. You just got to beat the freeze.
Yeah, I know it's not the Turner family, because if it was,
no, it's not
all
Ted Turner.
know
I think
Ted Turner would have. Ted Turner is a pretty famous liberal Democrat. I'm pretty sure.
Can't you believe you just glossed over the freeze, man?
The freeze?
Beat the freeze? You don't remember that?
No.
The dude, it was like a mid-inning promotion that the Braves did when they started moving that Coliseum, whereas that dude in like the antifreeze like suit, and fans would get like a 50-foot head start and he would just like out sprint them. Come on.
No. Anyway, so can we move
God
past
damn it, Chris,
this random sidebar of nostalgia that probably no one else understands either?
Dude, and it was like a couple of years ago. It was like a huge thing when they started. God, you're the one out of touch with it.
What does it have to do? What does it have to do with what I'm saying?
Because it was in Atlanta. It was at their when they got their new stadium. He was doing it there, and I was trying to make a joke because nobody was ever able to beat the freeze in a race. I can't believe you don't remember that.
Okay, anyway, so Liberty Media owns the Braves now. They're a mass communication.
That sounds
company.
pretty.
They own stakes in Formula One, and they own Sirius XM Radio. I mean, that's cool, I guess. And they own Stars and Encore, the networks,
channels that nobody has.
Yeah,
Stars, Encore, and Sirius.
Except for people who watch
Power.
Power, yeah, I was gonna say the Empire remake. Yeah, Ted Turner would have not been okay with that. I know that for a fact. But yeah, anyway, we can move on. It was disappointing, but Colorado should be cool. Colorado's, I mean, I really like Coors Field. I really like the city of Colorado. Our buddy Manny was saying in one of our group chats today, like, God damn it, the year that I moved out of Colorado to Boston, they do the All-Star game there. It was pretty great. All right. So next up, bench is clear, Julio, in a game against the Reds and the Cardinals. How do we describe this situation?
It was.
Go ahead.
So Nick Castellanos, who's off to an awesome start, by the way. We just got to
Yeah.
point that out there. He's been kicking ass for the Reds. Reds are also off to a pretty great start as well. So suck it, Ronnie. But if you don't remember, I said that was my
You did. You did say
wild
that.
card team.
You
Yeah.
did say that.
Or my dark horse.
That was
But
your guy. That was your team. Yeah.
There was I believe, a pass ball. There's air somewhere in the field. Castellanos was running home and he slid. And during the slide, like him and Yadier Molina collided. He was safe. He got up. He just did like a very emphatic, like, let's go, boys, whatever typical, shit dudes say when they're safe on a big play. And the team did not like it. The Cardinals did not like it. He stepped over Yadier Molina, which, okay, that's probably why.
He kind of,
but it turned into a benches clearing thing.
He stared him down too while he was doing it. So I guess,
yeah. And if anybody's gonna have a problem, it's Yadier.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one person you probably don't want to mess with in baseball. But that led to benches clearing, typical tough guy baseball shit. Kind of a lot of stares, a lot of like grabbing, but nothing's ever happened. But the end result is Nick Castellanos got suspended 2 games. And it's so stupid. What was the motto of baseball the last couple of years? Like, let the kids play.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. You let the kids play with enthusiasm and you suspend them. No punches were thrown. Nobody was hurt. Nothing happened. It was just a big play. He was excited and he got suspended for it.
I get why like Yadier might be a little like confused and upset because he does like, I wouldn't say he like stands like over him. He doesn't like go out his way to like stand there. He just kind of like gets up, and Yadier happened to be on the ground because he was knocked over while trying to catch the ball at home. And he like kind of like just let's go, like like Hulk style, like chests like flexing and stuff like that. And he does kind of stare him down when he's doing it, but he's not saying like fuck you or anything like that. He's not like yelling at Yadier. He's just kind of like pumped up. And the bench is clear. And I mean, isn't this kind of what like you said, like isn't this kind of what we're trying to get out of baseball? We're trying to make it more fun and more exciting. This happens in basketball or in football. It's no big deal. It's just like you're trying to hype up the team, but it happens in that. It's just kind of happens in this sport. And it's like it's not gentleman-like. It's just kind of, I mean, when are we going to get over this? I thought we were over this last year with the Tatis, fucking unspoken rules and shit like that. So I don't know. I mean,
and the thing is too, he came out afterwards, and it's nothing but respect. Like, I don't think there's anybody in the league that does not have respect for Yadier Molina as arguably the best catcher of our generation. He's going to be a top 5 catcher probably ever when he retires. And he even said, Nick Castellanos said post game, like, yo, I'd still ask him for an autograph if he punched me in the face, because it's like, it's just greatness. So it's bullshit. I think it reminds me a little bit of like the NBA, where this last year, where there's been so many ticky-tacky fouls that have been called way more than often. That really, it's just like, you just got to let them play, kind of grind these things out. And because of that, it's slowing down the pace of the game.
Yeah. And
a lot of people are just getting super toxic about it on social media with basketball. So it's like, if you're going to keep suspending dudes for this, I'm like, yo, there's bigger battles you got to put it out there. If anything, maybe a little fine. Don't suspend him 2 games, especially for Nick Castellanos. Like I already mentioned, he's having a great start. He's probably one of the more exciting hitters in baseball right now, because like, dude, when he hits it, he hits and he really pimps the shit out of it. Like, it's fun. That's what you want. So it's stupid that you're going to suspend somebody you're going to punish them for that.
A fine for playing the game with some excitement, though. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, it's not like he's attacking him. I don't know.
I think this is something the teams themselves could handle, because I would say don't suspend him the following days. Whoever's on the Cardinals, don't hit him, throw it by him. Like, that's how you do it. That's what you do. That's what you fucking do in baseball, man. I don't get it. All right.
You want to move to the last thing?
Yeah, because there was a lot of really cool shit that happened in this last week in baseball, and I think we had a hard time kind of narrowing down. We got
It
Um,
was between like this
uh,
and the Otani Sunday night baseball game. In my
yep,
opinion.
Yerman Mercedes. Yeah. Oh my god, dude. How many times have you watched that Otani home run? Because I've watched it like 5, 10
I
times.
like four
Just
times.
the sound of it is
Yeah.
like, I forgot where I saw the Twitter quote. They're like, Otani's home run sounded like he just like ripped 2 beers in a softball league. Like that
Yeah.
sound was.
Yeah.
Yerman Mercedes started 8 for 8. He's like the first person to do it since Roy Campanella back in the 1940s. But I think this was a really great choice to kind of highlight the start of the week. A dueling no-nos going into the 6th inning, Chris.
That's the crazy thing about this is because baseball is all about like dingers and like flashiness, that this is kind of like gone under the radar. But this is fucking remarkable. Dueling no hitters through 6 innings between two starting pitchers. Like this is insane. Who were the pitchers, by the way? I
It
couldn't
was
remember.
Jose Barrios for Minnesota. It was the Twins and Brewers. Jose Barrios, who's he had a pretty disappointing year last season compared to his 2019 season. His
Yeah.
ERA went up, strikeout rates went down. And Corbin Burns, who I'm a huge fan of. I talked him a lot. I talked him up a lot in this last preview episode for the NL Central. They're the first combined no-nos to go into the 6th inning since 2014 with Jake Peavy and Jacob deGrom. And a couple other numbers through those 6 innings. They had 23 combined strikeouts, zero walks, 0 hits, and 2 hit batters.
That's just fucking like, for people like us who like baseball, like that would have been like the game of the fucking month, like, or year, just like watching it, like in anticipation, like, oh my god.
Just unfortunately, it was happening the same time as the
Final Four.
UCLA game was going on.
Which
UCLA, UCLA game was happening.
Yeah, which is like the second or third best college basketball game ever played.
Yeah, exactly.
That game was wild. Yeah. But yeah, that happened.
It was awesome. Yeah. There's not really much to talk about. It's just like, it was really cool seeing that. It was the first time. Maybe we just follow a ton of baseball people on Twitter, but like social media was like truly buzzing about it. They're like, oh my God, is anybody watching this? Like, look what's happening. Look what's happening. And there was a couple, and Trevor Bauer is also throwing like 6 no-hit innings against the Rockies. But it's just cool. Do you think we're going to see a pitcher's year? It's been confirmed. The ball has been changed. It's not the juiced ball anymore. Do you think this might be a more common thing, or do you think these are two guys who were just on it to start?
This is actually a great segue to our next, our first topic for the A's news. So I think I'm going to say it this way. If you were to watch the A's this past 6 games, you would think like, oh yeah, because they're not hitting the ball so well. They're not hitting out of the park. They have a lot of fly balls that just don't get enough on it. They only have 2 home runs. But then you look at the teams that we played, like the Astros and the Dodgers, and they're just fucking racking them up on us. So I don't know what to think.
The Twins and Brewers both have good offenses too, but yeah, I think it's time to transition, man. We have this can of worms.
That's it. I'm just so fucking annoyed by this. I just want to like get it over with and talk about it.
I'm not gonna lie. I've been looking forward to this all day. Just a fucking vent. This feels worse than the post Marcus Liam episode.
Yeah, because this is a result. Well, we don't know exactly, but this feels like a direct result of that. I mean, I texted you today, like, thank God for once they, Bob Melvin decided to put our 2 hottest hitters back to back in the lineup. That's Jed Lowry and Ramon Laureano, which he wasn't doing these past 5 games. And so like pretty much those 2 and like kind of Mark Canha have been getting hits, like, every once in a while around here, but then everybody around them doesn't fucking hit the ball or bring them home, or they get a walk with the leadoff, they get a double with the second, and then they just have 3, just go 3 and out after that. It drives me fucking crazy. So if you've been living under a rock and you use this podcast to keep up in your A's news, let's be realistic. No one has been doing that. So you guys already know what's going on. They're 0-6 right now. So worst start since 1916. This is a fun quote or a fun tidbit that Julio added, which is from Dieter Kurtenbach. Did I say that right, Julio?
I think so, but he works for the San Jose Mercury.
He said he tweeted. So the A's are 0-6 for the first time since 1916. Two pandemics have happened during that time, which is true. They've been outscored 50 runs to 13. That's right, 50 to 13, 1-3. Their pitching is an ERA of 8, and their team batting average is 169. As much as I love the number 69, I don't love it in terms of when a 1 is next to that number or in front of that number, and in terms of baseball. Those are both the worst in Major League Baseball. I don't know.
Actually, the hitting one is actually changed. It's the Brewers have the worst.
The Brewers 168.
Okay, it's the worst in the American League. Fixed.
Okay. Doesn't make me feel better.
I'm trying to find an exact that we're going to talk a lot more about this a little bit later because I think this is really going to be a major talking point. I think it's the same issue in terms of hitting that's been happening for the last 3 years, and they still do not know how to hit in pressure situations. It's been 3-4 years. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but like,
so
what gives?
You can point it at one thing, which is we're like having injuries fucking week of hell. So both Laureano and Piscotty are banged up. That's the reason, if you've been watching the games, Piscotty has been playing right field because there's something going on with his shoulder. He can't throw the ball doesn't feel as good throwing the ball. So he's been pinch hitting every once in a while. Laureano, he played the first series and then he's kind of taken a couple games off. He's clearly not 100%. The only healthy starting outfielder we have is Mark Canha. So you have to play Tony Kemp out there, who is kind of a defensive liability. He doesn't really have much of an arm. He covers a decent amount of ground, but he doesn't really have much of an arm on him. And then we've had Kai Tom out there, which he's been fine defensively. He hasn't really run into many issues. He can't really get the bat going, but that, it is what it is. And after that, we're kind of out of defensive options because Chad Pinder is on the 10-day DL. Something happened to him. He's been jumping and diving all over the field the first 2 games of the season, so that's probably has something to do with it. He's made some amazing plays, but I would assume that he's got some issues going on. Sky Bolt was claimed from the Giants, so he's over playing in San Francisco. They just pulled up Seth Brown today. I assume we're going to see him in the coming days. Thank God.
Yeah. Tonight's post game, Bomel at Tuesday, April 6th. Bomel said he's probably going to be starting tomorrow. Just
perfect. Yeah. And, we talked about him last episode. He's had his classic 2 weeks of fame with the A's where he had 2 amazing weeks and fell off bat wise, but he was a solid defender. Matt Olson is banged up. He did not play today. Mitch Moreland started for him, which Mitch Moreland did great defensively, so I'm not too upset. He's a former Gold Glover. Makes sense. Trevor Rosenthal, what looked like was only going to be out for a week, could miss potentially 3 to 4 months if they have to have surgery. They had an MRI today. They did not get the results back, so we will hear back from that tomorrow.
And
the injuries. Oh, there's more.
Sean Murphy's back now.
Yeah,
but he was out the whole Houston series, so that left Aramis Garcia, who's had his limited experience with this rotation, to catch these guys who got completely lit up that whole weekend.
Yeah. I mean, him and I noticed it specifically when Luzardo started. They did not look like they were on the same page at all whatsoever. Like it's almost like Aramis Garcia had no idea what his repertoire was, and it was weird. That was a weird one. And at least Austin Allen knows these guys. That's kind of why as much as Alex talked up Aramis Garcia when she came on the pod, I feel more comfortable with Austin Allen with the pitchers. I'm not going to point at that being the reason, but I'm just saying that is something that just came to mind.
I'm going to attempt to bring up, look, just tonight alone, they left 10 runners on base. They left 16 the night before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God, what the fuck's going on? Like, I don't even know where to pinpoint where the exact problem is because everything's a problem. Like Bomel can't even like he's like even he looks lost. That's the one thing that's been so consistent with him kind of steering the ship over the last really 10 years now because he came in halfway through 2011 is he's just been cool, he's been calm, he's collected. You can like visibly see him in post-game conferences like frustrated, like, and I've never seen that from him before. So like the talent's there, like I think the one thing that Alex Coffey's piece that she wrote today, just kind of questioning John Fisher and his tactics over the last forever, has been like what makes a team like the Dodgers so good and what makes the Astros and all that. It's like they have depth and they're dependent. So like Zach McKinstry, out of nowhere, he's pretty much going to be the new Kike Hernandez since he left for Boston. He went 3 for 5 last night in the 9-hole. Tony Kemp's been in the 9-hole, and what's he gonna do? Like we love Tony. I love Tony Kemp. I know we're big fans of him. Personality. I think he's great for the clubhouse and for just the organization as a whole. But it's like, just because you're serviceable, that doesn't mean you should be in there almost every day, man. And that just shows you how depleted this roster actually is at the end of the day. When it comes to if shit happens like it has this first week, you can't depend on those guys.
We're at
I'm going to say, I'm just going to say Tony Kemp, Brad Wanamaker.
I like Tony Kemp for everything that he does in the clubhouse, so I hope that that's not the case. But yeah, he's starting to feel like a Brad Wanamaker.
A lot of young Warrior players really like, hey, like Wanamaker was our vet. We learned a lot from him during that time, and that's why you have guys like him and Tony Kemp around. But it's like at the end of the day, I'm like, dude, they're not. When you're trying to compete and win another AL West title, those aren't the guys that you need to be like your next in line dudes if things hit the fence.
I think this will describe the best way that I feel about this team right now. And if they don't turn around soon, I'm going to fucking throw something at my TV when I'm watching them. So like, for example, let's say, so they gave up 4 runs in the third, 3 runs in the third today. And then you go into the bottom of the third and you're kind of like, oh shit. All right. It's not doing so well. You have your hopes are kind of down, and then you go, they go 3 and out. We go on the top of the 4th, and I don't know if I can't remember specifically if this happened or not, but this is just an example. Let's say Chris Bassett goes 3 and out with those guys. Say he strikes out a guy and then like 2 ground outs. Then you're like kind of going in the bottom 4th, like, okay, cool. Like we got some momentum. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's make this happen. And normally with these A's teams, I would feel encouraged. And then it shows the upcoming batting order, the 1, 2, and 3 hitter. And like you see Chapman, Murphy, and Piscotty, and you're like, okay, great. Like we got some real hitters. We're going to come back and we're going to like make some noise and maybe we can get like 1 or 2 runs on the board. But right now I'm seeing we got Chapman, Murphy, and Piscotty coming up and I'm like, oh, fuck. Going to be another 3 and out. Like this is going to be brutal. Like the only time I feel encouraged is when I see Laureano or Lowry coming up in the batting order. Everyone else,
honestly, Canna's been off to a decent start too.
And Canna too. I'd be like, oh my God, some more fucking strikeouts. This is going to be a mess. Like, it's just, so that's the best way I can describe it.
And that's just the hitting. We haven't talked about the pitching right now. Where Chris Bassett arguably had the best start of the season so far, and he still gave up 4?
Gave up 4 runs.
How many runs total?
Hits.
4 runs.
Yeah, 9 hits and 2 home runs today.
And
go ahead.
The thing is, previous Ace teams, if this was last season, they could get away with squeaking by and make a competitive game. It's just like, he 4 runs. Okay. And then
I don't want this to sound like a depressing podcast, but it is, man. We're 0-6. Like, this is not how we expected the season to start. Like, regardless of whether we had Marcus and Liam and Crush or not, we made moves that we thought we liked. Yeah, and
Frankie
the worst part
Montas
about
gave
it,
up 7 runs, man.
yeah, the worst part about it was Bassett came off what was a pretty good start. He only gave up 1 run, and we were making the argument that night later on that like if he stays in, maybe they don't lose the game. Maybe he should have gone a little bit longer and not been on a pitch limit because he was still looking pretty good even when they took him out. And then they bring in Petit and he gives up 4 runs. Yeah, I don't know. I think we should.
Frankie Montas Monday gave up 7 earned runs.
Yeah, that was brutal. It was hard to watch.
It's Sean Manaea.
Someone who's supposed to have
Sean Manaea actually didn't pitch terribly. He gave up 5 earned runs. Okay.
Yeah. With Montas too, someone who everybody says has the best stuff on the team too. That's the worst.
We've been hearing that for 3 years, almost. Arguably 3 years. His splitter, his fastball. I was so high on him at the beginning of last season because I drank that Montas Kool-Aid where, his fastball's taken up to 100. Mm-hmm. But it's the same thing. He's just inconsistent, man. And it's just like everything that we've been so stressed about over the last 3 years is like crashing right now. Like the things that we're like, this is going to be a problem if you guys are real. Like, yes, the pitchers are good, but they're inconsistent.
Yeah.
They're like, yes, the hitters are good, but like they can't hit in pressure.
Well,
and
except for Bassett, but he hasn't been this year.
Crashing in right now. It's just, and it's just the worst because it's like they had a pretty good spring. Obviously, you can't judge spring by any measure. And yes, they've had a super tough schedule. Like we can't ignore as much shit as we want to talk about Houston and them cheating and just all the booing they got. They're still a really good offensive team.
But dude,
Dodgers are World Series champions.
That's true, but at the same time, like if we're supposed to be this good, we should be competing, not getting fucking blown out 6 games in a row. Like that, I don't want to hear that excuse. That excuse is fucking stupid. Like, no offense, Cameron, my buddy Cameron said on our A's chat that, but like that's to me that's bullshit. Because if we're supposed to be one of these contending teams, then we should also be putting runs on the board, and it should be a slugfest. This shit drives me crazy.
And no, absolutely, and that's why I wanted to bring up this point. The Angels have played the White Sox, who are going to be contending for the American League pennant. You picked them as your World Series team for representing the American League.
Yeah.
And they're 2 games in on a series against the same Astros that just swept us and scored 8 runs, at least 8 runs every game. The Angels are 4-2. The Angels are 4-2 in that rotation that we've talked so much shit on over these last couple of years for all of the shit we talked about that offense, how inconsistent they are. They're still playing better against these good teams. So it's like, what fucking gives?
Yeah.
What gives at this same team who's been at playoffs for 3 years in a row, that has been pretty like consistent pitching, consistent bullpen. Like they're arguably one of the most consistent teams in baseball in terms of just like, yeah, they're not the greatest team, but what they're going to get out of them.
Yeah.
What gives? Why can't they do it? And that it's just, and now we're at the point where we're texting each other back and forth. We're saying, yo, there's some people who need to go.
Mm-hmm. 6 games in, we're saying that 6 games in. But there's one.
Like this is
There's one person in particular that does need to go, and we will get into that after this break. So stick around, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back from that very heated session, but it's about to heat back up more. Let me just introduce the segment first, Julio, then I have a question for you that I think is pretty interesting. So this week's featured segment is going to be called Open Air Session. COVID's going on. Make sure you keep your windows open, keep the air flowing. You don't want that disease to get on other people. I don't know. You want your air clean and you want it filtered. So we're going to do an open air session because this team is 0-6 and we're losing our fucking minds. So Julio, so I cut you off before we ended. That's because I wanted to save what was going on for the segment. But you had a very interesting look in your face. So we'll go ahead and say what you were gonna say.
I've never have felt this angry about the A's, like ever. Like the Raiders, I felt that I've stopped feeling mad about the Raiders like years ago.
Yeah.
Like legitimately mad about the Raiders because it's just like they're just incompetent. It's just so frustrating that like, look, it's a tough schedule. Obviously there's so much probably behind the scenes stuff we don't see with the players when it comes to COVID and all this regulation stuff. So it's probably super stressful, man. I totally empathize with them and like, I get it. It's just it's so frustrating to see this team not even be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
There's like no drive. There's no heart. And like the most drive we saw was Sergio Romo, dude.
So are you saying in terms of the gameplay or just overall the team as a whole? Or
just overall, man, like something I wouldn't be shocked if just a lot of these players still feel kind of this frustration from the beginning of the year of, them kind of lowballing Marcus and kind of these like cut cost moves have happened this last year where look, we can all always blame John Fisher. That's the easy way out. But we're now getting to the point where I think this organization, front office really needs to examine like, it's what's the definition of insanity? We talked about it last night. It was just
doing
like
the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Exactly. And it's starting to show. The wheels or like the wheel of the train or whatever the hell trains have, or it's the gears are starting to break down. We're starting to see the same thing that we've been frustrated about for 3-4 years now with more or less the same team. And it has to deal with some of the coaching.
Yeah, I mean, you can just say it. It's with Darren Bush. Like these guys
Bush,
look lost at the plate when there's runners in scoring position. They look completely like for the 5 steps behind. I don't know what he's doing with his study, with his analytics and his research and his film watching. Like I don't know what if he just doesn't prepare. I don't know what the story is, but this has been a constant problem since he's taken over for Chili Davis as the hitting coach. The guys look unprepared. They don't know what they're doing. They just leave guys on. Even like back to 2014 when he took over, when Chili Davis got that massive deal with Boston to be their hitting coach. He took over. I mean, there was a lot of problems that 2014 season, but you look back to the second half of the season, they were just leaving runners stranded all the fucking time. They had great pitching, and those pitchers were dealing day in and day out, but they could not fucking bring runners home. Same thing with the playoffs the past 2 seasons. Those 2 wildcard games, like they just get fucking shut out. Last year, they barely made it through that White Sox series. Because of the reliability of 2 guys, 2 veterans who kind of like fucking basically have gotten them through the past 3 years. But it's ridiculous, man. Like Bob Melvin really needs to like look at this and be like, hey man, like, this is a business. It's not a friendship club. Like it's
starting
ridiculous
to feel very nepotistic because you already mentioned like he's been in the organization for 6-7 years now. There has been no other hitting coach besides him and post Chili Davis. And it's just showing like you already mentioned, like, the wild card game in 2019. And that game was so traumatizing, more so because it's like they were in that game. The Yankees game the year before, it really felt like they were never in it. And just, they're rolling out there with Liam as the starter. It was just this whole thing. I don't think they really had any business to really try to contend. But in 19, they were in it, man. They easily could have taken advantage of the game,
but
and
they
lost because
fucking runs.
Yeah, they just consistently, time and time again, left runners on base. I really remember post game, Bomel was like, this is something we really need to work on in this next offseason. Obviously, COVID hit and the world kind of shut down. But then when baseball came back up in July of last year, it seemed like, the team was still, they started off great. The rotation was really coming along. The bullpen was great. hitting wise, it was the same thing. Like they still couldn't do it. Now, I'm not a baseball professional. I played 3 years of little league, and I played like 6 years of drunk stuff, like slow pitch softball. I don't know what the solution is to coach new like players. Like, yo, situational hitting. You got to run on second, 2 outs. How do we get those runners in? This could be a much bigger thing than just Aaron Bush. This could just be, the money ball philosophy. Oh, don't ever bunt or whatever. But like, it's insanity. It's the breaking point in insanity where it's like, this isn't working. Mm-hmm. What can you do to help change this? And there's been no solution.
That's kind of the story of the A's organization as a whole, pretty much since the Haas family sold the team. Is they keep expecting Billy Beane to work his magic with sabermetrics and find value where other teams don't see value. And they keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, but it's the same results. Same thing that I said when I decided not to pick them in the World Series for my team. They still can't make it past the American League Division Series. It just baffles my mind. And it's just getting old and getting frustrating. And yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, this is probably, this is close. I would say 2014 fire sales was probably the most pissed off I've been with this team, but this is definitely because that team went from like, a contender to nothing. This, at least the fire sale that happened, it's not really fire sale. The sale that happened this past offseason, we're still competitive, and we thought we were maybe even better. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't feel very good about any of my teams right now, except for the Warriors won tonight, so I feel a little better. But
yeah, thank God that dumpster fire.
Yeah,
won, and all because Giannis wasn't playing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to one day eventually do a spin-off Warriors podcast where we just do like a once a month thing, and we just kind of vent whatever frustrations happening with us in that moment. But I think another thing we really got to talk about, and it's time and time again, and I'm just getting kind of tired of defending him, is with Bomel. A lot of people are claiming like, like, I think this is it. Like, this is it. You can just tell he just really is burned out. And the main argument I always put back at people is, who else do you think who's going to be willing to take this job, seeing how ownership is, seeing how, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but we know there's definitely some guys frustrated, like Matt Chapman, probably. Who's going to be willing to take that job and who can still make this team competitive?
The only thing I can think of is some young gun like Eric Chavez, some shit like that, who's in the organization. Or not Eric Chavez, he's with the Angels.
Mark Kotze?
Yeah, Mark Kotze, Bobby Crosby. Someone who wants their first shot at managing, just going to take the job on a whim because it's like, oh, it's a manager's job. If we're not going to get a good big name, that no one's going to fucking want that job. No one wants to deal with this bullshit. No, they want a payroll.
The only other person
they want a front office that's going to be behind them.
The only, like, if I'm trying to think of just like disgruntled managers who've just been like, yo, I want a second chance, but it's just like, there's some people who are like in really comfy positions that like, I don't like, let's say if like they're like, yo, Ron Washington, we want you back. You deserve another shot at managing. Dude's a third base coach for one of the best teams in baseball in Atlanta. Like,
I don't know.
And he's pretty much helping groom Ronald Acuna. Like, do you really think he's going to leave that comfy position, man?
Well, also him and Billy didn't really like get along in a lot of the at least like logistics back in the day. So I can't imagine he would want to take over for a team that's going to limit him in certain things like that. Like, that's why he went to the Rangers as opposed to waiting out getting a manager job with us, was because he wanted to go to a team that would support his managerial style. I don't know. I definitely, I mean, if people are saying out there to fire Bob Melvin, I think you're out of your fucking mind, but I could definitely see him leaving for sure. I think I could definitely see him getting fed up.
I just don't know. Like, there's no better options right now. It really doesn't.
I don't want him to leave
Yeah.
either. I want him to be the one to win the first World Series. He's put in his dues, man. He's made a lot of teams something out of nothing, and I respect that. And I want him to go down as the greatest manager in the history of the Oakland A's. So I want him to be here, but I understand if he is over it.
Chris, really rough first week. I think we just need not only us, but the rest of A's fans to feel some joy. So I actually brought a special guest here.
Hey, cat sighting.
Evie. Yeah, Evie came to jump in. Also, I have maybe next podcast, I actually bought like A's bandanas for the cats. I was like, okay, maybe if I put them on today, I put it on. They don't like wearing their collars anymore because they're just jerks. And I put it on Peach. I'm like, okay, maybe this will break it. It didn't work. So, Evie, it's your turn tomorrow.
Nice. Next episode. All right, let's finish off this episode. I think people are tired of hearing us pitching. All right, so this upcoming series we have the Houston Astros are in town again from Thursday to Saturday.
Fantastic.
Oh, no Sunday game. That's weird. And then also we're finishing it off, but by the time this episode airs, this game will be in progress. But anyway.
So they're gonna get their first win beating Trevor Bauer.
Yeah, fucking right. Finishing off with the Dodgers, and then next Monday and Tuesday they're in Arizona to play the Diamondbacks. We will have a new episode for you guys on Thursday. We'll go back to our regular schedule Thursday. The only reason why we did it Wednesday this week is because I'm going to New York for work, and I'm traveling tomorrow, so I'm not able to record tomorrow. Just letting them know. What were you gonna say?
Also, shout out to my dad and my brother Andrew. They're going to be at that game on Tuesday.
Nice.
Or at least they were going to be there. I don't know what the latest update is, but it's great to see the fans. Not really much. We've seen Houston.
Arizona? What are they doing in Arizona?
My brother lives in Arizona.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Andrew, you met him. You've met him a bunch of times. Probably.
And then your dad's going to visit them or something.
Yeah, they've been there for the last week. Welcome to the Reynoso family group chat. I'm your host, Julio Reynoso. I'm here to talk all things Reynosos. But yeah, the Houston series, God, it's their first game, their home opener. So I can imagine Houston fans are going to be very pissed over this past week of how not only Oakland, but Angels fans as well for throwing trash cans on the field are going to feel about it. So I have a feeling this next series is not going to be pretty either. But Arizona might be nice. Arizona might be decent. Ketel Marte's been freaking lights out to start the season, and that's pretty much the only thing we got to worry about. But
depends on who we see their pitching wise. If we see Mad Bum, that's gonna suck. But yeah,
we'll see.
I still like our. I don't know. Maybe we can turn around. Probably not, but maybe. All right, so let's get our player of the week, Julio. You can go first if you even have one.
Evie.
Good job, Evie. Congrats.
No, but no, really, honestly, Mark Hanna has actually been pretty solid, and I know he's had the blunder on Saturday, Sunday in the outfield. But usually he's a pretty consistent glove for most of the part. But he's hitting 261 of the season.
Ball, dude. That was a weird one.
Yeah,
he took like kind of a weird route, but yeah, that was a weird one.
Yes, but he's hitting 261 this season. He's on his OBP is 346. So the leadoff experiment is kind of working, or at least like him at the top of the lineup is working a little bit in terms of just him getting on base. The problem is the people after him can't really do anything with it because, we suck with hitting on runners in scoring position. And he's also leading the team in home runs with a whopping 1 home run. So I want to give a shout out to him. I think he's been really under the radar. He's kind of been yeah. He's more or less the under the radar A for the last 5 years, and I'm glad that he's going to be getting some spotlight before he becomes a free agent.
Yeah. 340 something. You said it was OPP. Oh, that needs to go up for sure. You were muted there. I didn't hear you.
Oh, I think that's still good enough. At least for this team is doing it now.
Hopefully that'll go up.
I think hopefully as the bats come alive again, it'll go up a little bit. But yeah. Who you got? Yeah. You can't say yourself.
Nope, I am. The player of the week is me because I fucking got an iron chest, baby, and I took a fly ball right off the chest like a champ. And I'm world famous. That's the second time I've been on national TV this year. The first time was when I was creepily looking over at Giselle while she was taking a picture with Tom Brady's parents on
That's
the
right.
NFL Network. I didn't know what they were doing. I was very confused. I was in their box and I was watching the game with them, and it was just weird. And this time on ESPN. So suck it, Julio. You haven't been on national TV at all.
I've been on one. I will say I have been on one of many Angels post games in front of Angel Stadium because my drunk ass would always interrupt their broadcast chanting, "Let's go Oakland."
That's pretty cool, but it's not national TV.
No,
it's
it's
regional.
not. You're not wrong.
So suck it. All right. Let's go on to our essential tailgate tool of the week, and then we will call it a day. Who is yours?
Evie, who do you got? Oh, she's telling me.
Matt Chapman.
Okay. She actually likes Mitch Moreland. Mitch Moreland's going to have a pretty big shoes to fill this week, especially if Matt Olson is going to take some extended days off. His power is obviously not there. He's not really been the offensive player we wanted to be as a full-time DH.
I'll tell you, as someone who took a ball off one of his balls off the chest, his power is there. It's just not there on the right parts of the field.
But I think it's going to be exciting to kind of see him hit on the road. Most of his career has spent in hitter-friendly stadiums in Texas, in Boston. So it's going to be really cool to kind of see what he can do potentially on the road. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being a better road hitter than he is a home hitter, even though historically he's really hit the crap out of the ball in Oakland. So over this next week, I'm hoping he's going to be the guy to kind of help pick up not just the hitting, but like the power of this offense that where it could be, especially reiterating it in Houston, in Arizona, where a hitter stadium. So Mitch Moreland, you are my essential tool of the week, my guy.
Yeah, he's got to get used to the marine layer. So like one thing that me and Mason were pointing out at opening day was like all the balls kept on, specifically the A's balls kept on dying in the outfield, but there was no marine layer that night because it was warm. So
I think, dude, we didn't really talk too much about it. We glanced over a little bit. The ball change. There's been a handful of balls that have been hitting the outfield where like I'm standing up off the couch. I'm like, that's gone.
Yeah.
And it's just dying. And normally we're like, okay, it's night games. The ball usually doesn't carry as much. But even during like the game on Sunday, I think it was like dying out during the day. So who knows?
My essential tailgate tool of the week and probably of the next 3 months is going to be Jake Diekman, because now he's more important than ever with Trevor Rosenthal potentially out for half the season, which fucking sucks. But Diekman was great last year. He was bad in his one appearance on Friday, but he was great last year. Hopefully he can pick it up, and hopefully the A's will be in some win and fucking save situations and he can show off his stuff. But he's also important to my fantasy team because I had Trevor Rosenthal and I picked up Jake Diekman to replace him. So I need him to do that. Yeah. Any thoughts on that? No. Cool.
No, yeah. Well, yeah, he's just got to get in the game, man.
Yeah,
he's pitched one game.
And I love when like Sergio gets in the game. I like him at that setup role. Like, dude, we need more of like his style. When he came off, when he shut out I think he had two guys. He got one guy on, and then he struck out his guys and shut out the rest of his inning. He's walking off the mound. He's like, "Let's fucking go, boys! Wake the fuck up!" We need more guys like that. So maybe Sergio Romo and Jake Diekman. All right, that's gonna do it for this week's Town Tailgate. We'll be back again. We are going back to the normal schedule of Thursday morning released pods. Again, this week it was different because my work. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. Rate and give us a review, please, because we do this for free and we want to do it for money soon. And that'll happen if you guys rate the shit out of this and give us a review. We really appreciate that.
Also want to get one more quick shout out to our good friend who was just on the pod last week, John Fursh of the Super Halo Bros. He was at the Angels game. First off, if you wanted to learn a little bit more about the Angels from a fan perspective, definitely give them a follow on wherever you get your podcast, as well as on Twitter and Instagram. But he was at the Angels Astros game last night, Monday night. He lost his voice from how hard he was going. So on behalf of rest of Major League Baseball, except for Houston, thank you for your vocal contribution.
And shout out to the Schlatter Bros. Hopefully we can go to a Yankee game on Friday when I'm in New York.
Hey.
That is maybe in the works. All right. That's going to do it. Thanks again for listening. See you next week. Last but not least, Julio.
Let's go Oakland, or I'm gonna just end it all.
That was the most somber Let's Go Oakland in this pod ever, but it was well deserving. Come on, guys. Let's figure it out. The Town Tailgate is an independently produced podcast. It is written and executive produced by this guy, Chris Madrigal, and my partner in crime, Julio Reynoso. It is sound mixed and edited by yours truly. Social media management and marketing is run by, once again, my partner, Julio Reynoso. And a special thanks and shout out to my brother, Larry Madrigal, for composing and producing our theme song, as well as graphic designing our album cover and artwork. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Please tune in next week. Please subscribe. And last but not least, as we always say, let's go Oakland.